Hello YouTube and welcome back to a video. Today I'm going to show you how to make a loading screen to show the progress of how everything is loaded in your game. Alright. There will be two versions of this loading screen. I'm going to make it where it goes through everything in the game and it loads everything. It will take a little bit more time if you have a lot of stuff in your game, and I'm gonna edit it a bit to make it go through specific services. So the first thing that you're gonna want to do is go to Start GUI, insert a local script. You can name it to really whatever you want, but naming it to a loading screen or something like that. Loading screen script. We're just gonna take out that print for a second. Now what we're gonna do, we're gonna go to this script, insert a screen GUI. Once again, you can name it whatever you want. So I'm just gonna leave it loading GUI. And eventually in the future I will make tutorials for GUIs and any other script item that no one has seen yet. You're gonna insert a frame. This is just going to be the main frame that shows everything. We can just leave it that. Once again, you can name it whatever you want. I'm gonna go down to the size. I'm gonna set it to 1, 0, 1, 0. Where I put the ones, that is on a scale of the screen, so like 0.5% of the screen, so half. And the numbers that are 0, that is offset, so in pixels. Click enter. Now that fills the entire screen. I'm going to change the color something down to about 40 on RGB. That looks good. And one thing I forgot to do is, if you have other GUIs that might load in before your loading GUI, you would go to your screen GUI, go to display order, and you could set that to some high number. So we could just set it to like 15 for now. Alright, back to this frame. We're going to add in, once more, another frame. Just going to name this a background. I'm going to make its color a little bit darker, or a little bit lighter than the background, so 66 would be fine. I'm going to set its anchor point, so where on the GUI it'll be anchored to 0.5, 0.5. Oops, wrong spot to put both of them. Okay, now I'm going to go down to the position, once again on the scale, set it to 0.5, go over to the other scale, and set it to 0.5. So now it'll be in the center of our screen. I'm just going to add in something to spiffy it up a bit, a UI corner, just rounds the corners of it. I'm going to set its value to 34. Now, I'm going to scale it up a bit to a moderate size. So for the X, we could do 0.3. And on the Y, so how tall it would be, we could do 0.2, 75. A little big. I think 2 would do just fine. Now I'm going to add in a text label, a piece of GUI that can display text to the user. Once again, I'm going to set the anchor point to the middle of the GUI object. I'm going to make it completely invisible, so setting its background transparency to 1. It's a scale from 0 to 1. And then the position for the X, so left and right, 0.5, I'm gonna bring it down about 6. No, too far. 4. A little bit lower. 4.45. 0.45. Still a little too high. With your GUI, you can make it however you want. This is just an example of how I'm making it look decently nice. Actually, I know what I think I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take away the 0.5 for the center axis on this label, because this label is going to be the branding label. So you could put whatever the name of your game is or other stuff you want. I'm gonna set its text value to Sky City Studio Tutorials. Boom. I'm gonna select the text scaled, so automatically scales. And I'm gonna change the font to Source Sans semi-bold. And then also the color would be a nice teal blue color. That'll work just fine. Excuse my throat. Alright, I'm gonna set its size to 0.3, so it spans the entire background. Take away the offset, add in the scale, 0.1, maybe 0.08. Alright, that'll work good. Now we can duplicate this branding label, Control plus D, and we can rename it and call it loading text. So this will display a percentage of how much is loaded. And now we can move it down a bit to 5 maybe. And we're gonna want to scale this a little bit smaller, so like 1.5. And the Y scale, gonna make it about 4. Alright, that should do. Now we're gonna set the text value to loading, 3 dots, and then a 0%. So that's how much is loaded. Now we're gonna add in one more frame. This is gonna be the loading bar frame. You can name it whatever you want. I'm gonna set the anchor to 0.5, comma, we'll just leave the Y anchor at the top. Now this, I'm gonna make it a not too dark, not too light red, something like that. Once again, it's positioned to the center of the screen, 0.46. 0.55. Alright, that should do. Remove the offsets. Alright. Yeah, we need to go small with this one. 0.3. Alright, that works fine. Now we can set this bar scale to 0.28. That'll work. And now we're gonna copy this UI corner from the background. Control C, Control Shift V. Now it's nice and rounded. Now we're gonna copy the loading bar, Control C, Control Shift V, and now paste the loading bar into the loading bar frame. We can rename this to bar. We can set its color to a green color. Set it to 1. Sorry for that, one of my siblings quickly ran in. So we're going to set the size to 1, 0, 1, 0 to make this inner bar the full size of this loading bar frame. We're going to set its both anchor points for its x and y axis to 0.5. And now, as we scale it, it's gonna widen on the left and right. Alright. So that's everything all set up. Now we're gonna go into our script. We're gonna start writing a local variable, and we're just gonna reference our GUI. And keep in mind, I will make videos in the future, hopefully soon, of explaining variables and acceptable variables and non-acceptable variables and how the GUIs all work more in depth. Alright, so we're going to name this variable loading GUI equals script. So this current script dot loading GUI. It might you have to put in the name of your screen GUI, and it might autofill for you. Then we're gonna just make another variable called GUI, set that to the loading GUI variable dot frame, so we don't have to keep referencing down and down. Then the loading bar, or loading bar frame, equals GUI dot loading bar, and then the actual bar, loading bar equals loading bar frame dot bar. And then we can also reference the loading text and change that if you want, which we're gonna do in this video. GUI dot loading text. Now what we're gonna do, we're gonna set the GUI's parent equals to script.parent, since anything in starter GUI will always go to the player's player GUI. Now we're gonna go to game.starter GUI colon set core GUI enabled an enum dot core GUI type dot all comma false. Now this will set the top bar, the chat, the notification system for Roblox, and the leaderboard. It will set it to false. And then game dot replicated first colon remove default loading screen. So the normal loading screen you would get from Roblox, it's now going to be gone. Alright. Alright, so now the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to make a reference of all of the objects in game. So we're going to make a variable called game objects equal game colon get descendants. And then we're going to get a number value of how many game descendants there are. Equal total objects equals hashtag. So if something's able to have a number value like a table or a string, the hashtag will return how many characters or how many values are in a table. Since game objects is a table, we're going to do game objects in there. Then we're going to go into a for loop. Going to make the first variable index, comma, descendant, in pairs, game objects. Do. Now what we're going to do is we're going to reference our variables loading bar dot size equals udim 2 dot new. udim2 is the way of how GUI objects are scaled. So the first number is going to be index divided by total. Oh, I misspelled that. Total objects. Let me quickly fix that. There. Comma offset is 0. And keep the y, so how tall it is, on 1. Now we can go down to the loading text. Dot text equals loading dot space 2 periods for concatenating a string dot format double quotes. Now we're going to do percent 0.2 f. And we're going to do comma parentheses. We're going to do index divided by total objects space out of those parentheses times, so asterisk 100. So that'll give us a reading that looks like it's from 0 to 100%. Then we're going to do dot dot again, and we're going to add in this double quotes at the end, and then a percent sign. Now we're going to go down to game, colon, get service, content provider, the service that creates and loads everything in game. Gonna do colon, preload async, since it needs a table. So we're gonna do curly brackets, and then we're gonna reference this variable in here. Descend it. Then we can go back down here. I'm going to copy this. Set it to true. If your game is a bit more advanced and you have certain core GUIs enabled and not enabled, you will have to... You could have some other way of doing this, but you could do it like this where you have specific GUI types enabled and disabled when you're done. Now we're going to go game.debris service, colon, add item. Now we're going to add the loading GUI. So this is the instance that is going to be destroyed from when we use the debris service, comma, how much time there's going to be, 0.6. Now I'm going to just duplicate this line, Control-Shift-D, and just replace loading GUI with script. So this script will now be destroyed. And now, everything should be all working just fine. So here's our GUI. It's a little off. The position is 55. Set that to center. I'm gonna click play. Oh. Oops, might have put an error somewhere. Let me find that real quick. Alright, I found where I put the wrong variable accidentally. I was accidentally placing the frame, this frame, in player GUI, which that wouldn't work because it needs the screen GUI. So if you just change this variable right here from GUI to loading GUI, and then it should work. Now we click play. Now we have our percentage. And now we have our GUI. And now, since there's a lot of items in the workspace, it'll take a while, so as we can see here, it'll speed up extremely quick. I'm sorry. It'll just keep going. It'll take a while because it has a lot of items to load in here. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you how to make it a more specific service point. I'm sorry. More specifically, a service or specific items you want to loop through. So what we're going to do is we're going to change this index variable to an underscore. And I'm sorry if I go a little bit faster, I do want to keep this video about under 20 minutes, even though in my opinion that's a little long. But we're going to change this to obj to stand for object. We're going to change game objects to... Actually, we're going to leave that. We're going to make it a table. And then in this table, it's going to be a array version. So, like, any value that doesn't have a name. So that would be an array. So what we're going to do is we're going to go not self. Wrong type of programming. We're going to go game, get service, just to make sure it has it. We're going to do replicated storage. We're going to do workspace. So those should be fine for now. There's not a lot of stuff in this map. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take this total game objects. We're going to move it down. I was holding Alt and down arrow. We're going to make another for loop in here. Pretty much exactly the same as we did. Going to name index, comma, descendant in pairs. This object, colon, get descendants. Do. So now we're pretty much doing the exact same thing we did, just it's more specified. So now everything should be all set up. We should change total objects to... Actually, we should move it out of this for loop. Shift tab to put it indent it back. And we're going to change it to object. And now we're going to test it. And we'll see if it's working properly. Oh, nope, we got an error. I'm sorry. We'll see what that is. So we can click this, or it only works in playing mode. So we're going to look at the position, play GUI loading script, line 14. So 14. We also have to do get descendants there, because if it wasn't in a table version. So attempt to get length of a instance value. I'm going to click play. It loaded the replicated storage, and now it's loading workspace. And there are definitely other ways how you can do this, but this is one simple way. And now it's going to go through everything in workspace, which we're not going to sit here for however that long. I'm sorry. We're not going to sit here for however long that takes. I'm going to stop this. And I will post this script, both versions, to my GitHub, and I will give you the place file. Alright. Oh yeah, one more thing we just have to quickly do. If you saw at the top there was this little clear bit of light, that's because of the screen doesn't actually go completely over the screen. It constricts it by 25 or 26 or 36. I think it's 26 pixels. So what we're just going to do here is we're going to go to the Y. We're going to set it to minus 26. And see this down here? Now we're going to go to the size and add 26. There. So now if we quickly play test it. Oh, yep, it's 30 or 36. It now covers more of that. So I'm going to quickly find out that and get right back to you. Alright, so the correct value is 36. There's 30 pixels offset because of the top bar. So in the position, in the Y offset, minus 36, and then the size, and it's offset it's a 36. Alright, that should be everything. Thank you for watching. I hope this taught you something, and I will be coming out with videos very soon. Thank you, goodbye, subscribe, like, do whatever floats your boat. Have a good day.